here, please drop them into the chat as we go. Let me make sure chat is on for everyone. Everyone, there we go. Hello. Okay. And cool, I'll share my slides and we'll get underway. So thanks everyone for joining. We're super excited today to be doing kind of a sneak peek and overview of SaaStr Europa because we're about 3 months away now. So we'll go ahead and kick it off and get you up to speed, hopefully get you excited for SaaStr Europa for the first time in London for the, I think this is the fourth edition of SaaStr Europa. We did 2 in Paris, 1 last year in Barcelona, super cool on the water. This year in June, we're going to the Tobacco Docks in London. A lot of sponsors, a lot of attendees, anyone watching in the SaaStr community, everyone said, go to London, go to London, go to London. And so we're doing it. This is a photo of me actually at Tobacco Docks. If you've never been, it's a super cool venue. It's fairly historical. It was a shopping mall back in the day. It is by the dock. So yes, there are ships docked there along the water. So along the dockside. So it's a fun venue and I'm excited to give you all a sneak peek of SaaStr Europa 2023. Cool. All right. Without further ado, SaaStr Europa, like I said, it's the 4th one. It's this June. So it's coming up in, like I said, about 3 months in London at the dock, June 6th and 7th, 2 days. So if you're thinking of attending, 2 full days, we usually do some sort of VIP thing the night before for some of our speakers and sponsors. The docks are fairly easy to get to, on the tube, cab, whatever it may be. 6th and 7th June. It should be really great weather. I did a site walk literally around those dates last year, and it was super gorgeous. I'll talk about it a bit more in the sort of preview of Tobacco Docks in SaaStr Europa 2023. It is kind of a hybrid indoor-outdoor venue, which I think is quite nice, just given that we've done events hybrid indoor-outdoor since 2021 now, and it always seems to energize folks. So if you've never been to the docks or attended an event there, or maybe you have, I know a lot of folks who have because it's a fairly common and very popular venue. It's a great place. It's massive. And so we're going to take the whole thing over just for SaaStr for a few days in June. Dropping this here, if again, whether you're attending or sponsoring or thinking of doing one of those 2 things, I think this always helps folks kind of anchor them on like, who should I send to the event? Who should be going to the SaaStr Europa event? And so I wanted to just touch on this for a minute. SaaStr Europa, like all SaaStr events, is very executive and director level and investor driven. Like most of our attendees are at that VP level and above, a lot of them being the CEOs and the decision makers themselves, lots of sales and marketing folks, CROs, lots of VCs. I think we have a whole day of just VC content on the 2nd day. With some, sales and marketing content as well, but we've got so many VCs who are already coming to SaaStr Europa, so it's always a good sign, right? Because they go where it's at. So good sign there. Lots of product engineering, operations folks across different stages of SaaS. You can kind of see our company stages there as well. And I think one thing I'll say that's maybe not on this slide, just for some helpful context, there's already over 1,000 people signed up for SaaStr Europa 2023 this June. Super exciting times. It's already exceeded much past where we were for SaaStr Europa this time last year. So this will be our biggest one yet, the biggest one to date, the first one in London. And I always say this, we said this a lot about our APAC event in Singapore. Anytime we have a first of something, whether it's the first edition of something in a new city, like it is for SaaStr Europa, for an established event, or something brand new, like SaaStr APAC this past last month in Singapore. Anytime it's like a first time kind of thing, always has a magical energy. So first time SaaStr Europa will be in London, not the first SaaStr Europa, but first time for London. And I do think there's a lot of good energy and buzz kind of surrounding it to be in London for the first time, because as I said, for 4+ years now, folks have been asking us to come to the UK, come to London, and so we're doing it this year. So the people have spoken, and we're very excited. I think also another thing that's not in these slides here, we're seeing two kind of major trends on our audience this year. One, I think a lot more folks, for all the reasons of the markets being up and down and left and right these days, and a little unpredictable and all that good stuff, or all that stuff. Most folks are now bringing their decision makers with them to something like a SaaStr, right? That's the CEO, CRO, CFO, whomever it may be. Like, they got to get the guys there who can, have the final buy-in, have the final say. And so we're seeing a rise in that. Because something we've also seen across both annual and Europa, but since I'm talking about Europa today, I think especially for Europa, maybe a little bit more so than the annual, but lots of folks are bringing their teams to SaaStr Europa this year. So that is an interesting thing we've been seeing, as well as like the number of and percentage of individual attendees versus now people coming as teams. There's many more people coming as teams these days. I think that's to the point of like more folks going distributed, either to save costs or whatever it might be, or inflation on their office rates. Folks are distributed now, or they need some more time together too. Like, more FaceTime is important, I think, these days now more than ever. Lots of folks are coming in teams. So we define a team as 3 or more folks coming. Lots of folks coming, again, as a team, as a unit, if you will, especially to SaaStr Europa. So that's one thing to keep in mind there. Again, whether you're planning on attending, sponsoring, coming for the first time, lots of folks do bring their teams for some good FaceTime. And there's a lot of ways you can use SaaStr Europa. We'll cover some of it here. That we won't even cover all of it today, but lots of great ways to use an event like SaaStr Europa, which brings a lot of us together. So I wanted to give kind of a sneak peek and a bit of a recap on our SaaStr Europa events. I pulled some photos from our most recent Barcelona event. But this is the 4th edition of SaaStr Europa. The 2 we did in Paris were kind of like our first year events, kind of much smaller, kind of like, it was a bit of an experiment of like, we had only done SaaStr in the States really big up to that point, like, would people come and all that. And they did, and they really liked it. And so we've kind of anchored Europa, and there's a reason I anchored the slide on it too. We kind of anchor and focus the Europa event specifically on content and networking. Like, and don't get me wrong, there's a ton of content at SaaStr Annual. There's so much. 8 stages, like the most content we ever do is at SaaStr Annual across those 3 days. But SaaStr Europa content, there's a lot more deep dives, if you will. There's a lot more tactical sessions. There's more smaller. We probably will end up with the same amount of sessions at one given time, but there's a lot more smaller sessions, because at the scale and size of event, we can do that. And so there's a lot more workshops. There's a lot more brain dates, super brain dates. Like I said, we have VC sessions going on, mainly on day 2, but some on day 1 even, because there's so much great content. There's a lot of great content, and that is the focus and the core of the event. So whether or not you're thinking of attending or sponsoring, I think it's great to know that like the content anchors everything. So again, if you're an attendee, super important once we release the agenda to build out your schedule, because it will inform everything else. There's a lot of really great speakers. I'll give a tease of it later. But the content is really king here. And it's how we blueprint, and again, how we anchor the event is around the content, the sponsors, and the attendee experience. So content is always going to be good. We try and bring as many speakers as we can from around the globe, not just from the UK or from the US, but kind of from everywhere, to bring some of the very best speakers in SaaS. So again, I'll tease it out. You can see here in Barcelona. The reason I chose the photo on the left is because this is actually a session from our Sponsors We Love stage. So some of our sponsorships at the more premium level do have a speaking element in them. Just for fun facts there, if that teases your fancy. That's why I threw that photo there. And also, like, they seem to be having a good time. They're smiling. On this stage, it was outdoors on this one, front and center. So that one was a really good stage. The right one is, kind of our main stage content. And why I bring this up is because it's, our content is a draw. Every year when we do our survey, we ask folks, why'd you come to SaaStr? Content is like 40% for most people of why they come to SaaStr. So it's the majority of why people come to SaaStr. It's because SaaStr can bring these really great speakers from all around the globe. And some of them you may know, and they're familiar. We call them SaaS celebrities. They're known. You want to see them. These are like brands you aspire to be. And then there's other folks that maybe you haven't heard of, but we've heard of them, or we've seen their content, or we've worked with them to produce a really, really great session. So you're going to learn a lot, whether you're sponsoring or attending SaaStr Europa this year, as always. So the content is a lot of our anchor. It's a big part of why people come. So definitely not to be overlooked. So if you're thinking of attending, there'll be lots of great content. If you're thinking of sponsoring, I would say don't forget to go to content, have time, or bring your team, that will have time, not just to be in the booth, but to sit in sessions, learn a lot, write them up, do some photos of it, definitely not to be missed out, because it is a core part of the attendee experience side. And you can meet a lot of really great people by sitting in sessions. I've personally done it as well. So on to the next part, the sponsor experience. Yeah, I think there's maybe I didn't purposely do it, but there's a reason there's a lot of happy faces here for our sponsors. You can see the Hook team getting checked in. The Sales Loft team is like high-fiving our mascot. They're all branded, right? The Church Beat team, this is them in front of their booth, super excited and happy. I think we had just wrapped Europa, and so they were like cheersing. But yeah, the sponsor experience, I think, outside of maybe more other traditional events, or maybe even other events that you might have been to at Tobacco Docs, it's quite different because we do put the sponsors front and center. So there's really never a dull moment. Tobacco Doc is really great. We're putting all the sponsors between the main stages, so there'll be constant foot traffic, and the networking, so there'll be constant foot traffic. There's always someone to talk to, and again, I do think there's so many factors going into sponsoring something like a SaaStr Europa. It's a great way to do lead gen, but it's also a great way to meet customers, meet prospects that you're already in the funnel with. Again, do that content marketing, bring your team together, right? A lot of us are distributed now. Bringing your team together at something like this. I know a lot of sponsors lately have been telling us they use it as an offsite as well. They use it for meetings. They do their own team dinners. They do their own customer dinners. They do their own team little inter competitions. A lot of folks, think put a lot of prep into something like a SaaStr Europa in terms of, who makes up the team we're going to send to do all these things I've mentioned of do the booth, do the content, and do the networking, make the most out of it, right? Hack it a little bit. And then also how to get attention to their company and brand specifically, because there are a fair amount of sponsors. So, people like to stand out, do different things. You can kind of see Clit boxes that they did to kind of stand out there on the subscriptions that they manage. ChargeBee is all branded here. You can tell it's them. They've got this bright orange color that kind of draws you in. But from everything from, what you put on your TV to who you send on site, I think when you put in the effort, it does come back, because there's no other gathering kind of like a SaaStr Europa. From I'm a little biased, but from what I've been seeing, right, in terms of really great content that really draws people in, and then really, really great sponsors that are there to capitalize on that, really. So that's quite exciting there. From the attendee experience front, there's a few different photos I chose here. You can see our swag station. I think swag has been, sold out at our last two events. So for both Barcelona, actually maybe last three, Barcelona annual and APAC, people love this swag. And it's always, we try and pick things that people will like and that actually people will use, so there's not waste. So that's why, even though you might think, oh, Amelia, you just didn't order enough and that's why you sold out, I actually think it's a good thing to sell out towards the end so that there's no waste in what we're doing and what we're producing and what people are using. Because I know there's SaaStr swag, there's a lot of sponsor swag, and so I try and think about it that way as well. Of what people will use. You could see we did hats for Barcelona as well because it was quite sunny and people were honestly walking around with these hats. But on the attendee experience side, there's a few different things we do at each of our SaaStr events, and specifically for Europa, we do swag. We do, the top right one is from one of our kickoff sessions, and then the front and center photo is from one of our happy hours. So we always do happy hours on site. We usually do them, in the sponsor area to help drive traffic there. We do, kind of activation during our happy hours. We kind of start them earlier than I think other events, because even though there is constant foot traffic, I think it's good for folks to kind of walk around, have a break, have a mingle at the end of the day. And again, you can see folks are just genuinely happy at these happy hours. So I think that's always nice when you get folks that, they kind of bring the vibe together, and that's our attendee experience, right? Folks are going to content a lot of the day. They're having a lot of conversations with either their team or others, or they're doing things like the brain dates. I think it's nice at the end of the day to kind of come together with friends, old and new, and have a really good time as well. Because, I think a lot of us are kind of go, go, go these days. So it's kind of nice, even when you are at something like a work event, like a SaaStr, where at the end of the day, you can kind of, relax and mingle and network, and you're not in front of your screen the entire time. So quite nice sometimes. This year, SaaStr Europa is going to be at Tobacco Docks. It's a really great venue. Again, we chose it because it's indoor, outdoor. I'm not really sure what happened to my slide here on the photo compression, but it is indoor, outdoor. It's a super cool space. It's 2 floors. It's got, the dock side. It's got the front side. It's got these really cool atriums in the middle. You could see on the left here. It has these open air areas within the actual venue itself. So you don't even have to go like fully outside, although there is the dock side that is kind of fully outside, but still within the bounds of the venue, if you will. And so there's some fun things we'll be doing with it since it'll be June. Again, should be really, really good weather, kind of as jackets are coming off in London. Should be really fun. And honestly, it gets a lot of natural light, which I always love. I feel like it adds to the vibe of the experience. So it's a great venue. We picked it very purposefully. And so, this will change, but just a little bit of again, sneak peek or preview, whether you're attending or sponsoring, of what SaaStr all is doing at Tobacco Docks. I kind of focused on the upper level because it's where the majority of the activations are. The lower floor is more reserved for like co-working, meeting space, that kind of stuff, so that folks can still do that. We obviously know it's nice to get out from in front of your screen, but sometimes you got to go send an email or take a phone call. So that's kind of on the downstairs side. But upstairs, we've got kind of 2 main stages, some workshops, super brain dates, swag, sponsors we love, registration. We're going to do like a SaaStr Square Park, which is kind of what we've done at our Europa event previously. So if you don't know what that means, that's usually like our main food and like networking area is SaaStr Square Park, where you could go again, have a break, meet someone, take a phone call if you'd like. We always do a co-working space. In this case, it's on the bottom level, so it's a little quieter. Again, our co-working space is kind of like a mini WeWork, if you will. So those are always fun to go to. We're doing some cantinas. And again, those are anytime you see cantina or SaaStr Square Park or the pub, those are really good places to go get food, go get coffee, but also chat with folks, right? A lot of folks, I see folks who are in there all day and they're like, this is all I do. Like I sit here and I chat with folks like literally all day long. And we do like a quite large cantina in the States. And so we thought it'd be fun this year, since it's our first year in London, to build an on-site pub. So yes, we will have a pub. It's between us and our friends at Greenhouse. We're going to make it a really good time. Maybe a little bit of a greenhouse themed pub. But yeah, it'll be super fun. It'll be our first on-site pub, which I'm very, very stoked for. I kind of like that vibe. And so I am into that vibe. There will, and don't take that too literally. Like, there's probably not going to be beer in there at noon, but there might be like kombucha. So down at the pub is a good place to meet folks on site. I imagine that will be bopping the entire time because who doesn't love a good pub? So we're bringing it to you. A quick sneak peek here. Again, I mentioned this content is so king for us. It's a big draw and why a lot of people come to SaaStr. This is just a sneak peek at some of our speakers who've already confirmed to come to SaaStr Europa in a few months. And this is the tip of the iceberg. Like our agenda is actually almost all the way full now. I would say it's about 90% full. So we're just doing that last 10%. The full agenda will go live at the beginning of April, so in just a couple weeks here. But yeah, some really great speakers, some really good hero brands of folks who are coming from the States, going over there, folks who are coming, from various places, or a few of these folks, it's their backyard or they have a London office. And so again, a very global makeup, not only for our speakers, but our attendees and sponsors as well. So that's a sneak peek of that. Other things I wanted to mention, we do these things, if you're like, Amelia, you've been saying this word brain date, I don't really know what it means. We do these things called brain dates at both Europa and annual, at SaaStr Europa. We do actually more, I think, groups in SaaStr Europa potentially than we do at annual. But brain dates are essentially these small group networking sessions. They're really great because basically anyone can post a brain date. Once the platform goes live, you go in, you pick if you want it to be a one-on-one topic or one-to-many group topic. And then other attendees can join your topic, or you can join other people's topics. So if you see someone's doing a brain date on PLG and you want to go to that, you can sign up for it and take a spot in their brain date. Or if you want to do something on email marketing, you can do it and post it as a brain date. And usually people always ask, it's like, how do the mechanics work? Like, how many of these can I do? Like, can I, there's obviously some safeguards in place, like you can't take all the brain date spots. It does limit you to how many you can do off the bat. I will say as well, we've had folks where like their brain date fill and we upgrade the sizing. So like if we see that your one-on-one is full, or you've got a bunch of one-on-ones, of the same topic, we'll suggest for you to do a group. Let's say that group gets full, then we'll upgrade you to what we call a super brain date. A super brain date is like 25 people. Let's just say that 25 people gets full. Then we move you into a workshop that's like different sizes. So there's like a 50 workshop, there's 100 workshop. But honestly, we do it all data driven. So we kind of see what people want to go to. And if we see that, your brain date is performing and it's continually filling to capacity, we do work with the brain date team and our content team to, again, upgrade those. So a lot of our content is data driven. And so if you're thinking about coming, whether you attend as an individual or you come with a sponsoring company, highly encourage you to do the brain dates the moment they go live. People have really loved these. They've gotten some really great connections from them. I will say, if you are sponsoring, this is not a product demo, right? It's not like my brain date's on 10 minutes of how my solution will help you with RFPs. Like, that's not, first of all, I'm not sure who would exactly go to that topic because it's very commercialized. This is more meant to be kind of like our just sponsor content overall, more of a thought leadership piece. So something niche, right? Brain dates are kind of short. You can pick something niche, do like 3 or 4 slides, and then again, see who attends. And if they ask, and then most people will ask you what you do. You give an intro of what you do, and so your company will still be well represented, but maybe resonate a bit more with folks because you're coming at them from a thought leadership perspective. So. That's brain dates. This is what the platform looks like. I just grabbed the screenshot from our recent APAC event. This is kind of what the platform looks like. You can see how to post like a brain date there. So you can either do it by topic. You can also search by people, and then you can create your own topic. So this functionality at SaaStr is actually quite nice for a number of reasons. Again, we tell people to space themselves out. There's time for brain dates, there's times for content, there's times for being at the booth. Do it all if you can. Try to maximize your days there, because I do think it will help you meet and mix with a variety of people, during the event. So maybe a little bit more nuanced here, but for those who are joining because they want to know about the sponsorship opportunities, or I see some of you who are already current sponsors of SaaStr Europa. So wanted to give a quick rundown of where we stand and honestly kind of what's left, because inventory is getting scarce since we're getting so close to the event now. We've kind of started a countdown here. So since we're within the, within the next 3 months, we'll be SaaStr Europa. So our gold sponsors are our entry-level sponsorships. These are booths where you'll be next to somebody, you'll pretty much have a neighbor, but you have a booth that you can use to staff, grab folks, and have really good conversations. Kind of like maybe if this is your first time, or if you're an annual sponsor, this is your first time sponsoring the Europa event. This is a great entry-level option, and I do think there's only like 3 of these left with I think there's like a media component of it. So there's like 3 of those. There's 1 super gold, and the reason why I'll maybe spend a little more time on super gold is because our super gold sponsorships have a 10-minute speaking component on the Sponsors We Love stage. So this is something where we treat our sponsored content very much at the same caliber of all of our normal content. And so, we would work with yourselves and the SaaStr speaker team to put together a really great presentation that we, feel that people will go to, help draw the most attendees and interest for you. So yeah, that's why I kind of love the Super Gold package there. It's a little bit bigger too, so you have a little bit, more elbow room, more space to bring a few more folks, a little bit more space to either bring your own branding, swag, activations, etc. A little bit harder to do that in the gold, right? Because it's more compact. But that's why I'm always a fan of the Super Gold sponsorships for those two reasons. Now the platinum, if you have the budget for it, the platinum is like the end all be all at SaaStr Europa. There's only about, I think, one of these left as well, because again, we're getting so close. But the platinum sponsorship is really great if you want to do something on site, you want to have that booth presence, you want to have that content, and you also want to do some sort of activation. Like I like the platinums for that reason because they have, again, more space to do activations. They're in different areas than the Super Golds. And so there's a lot more leeway in like what you can do outside of your booth, but still like in your area. So that's why I really like the platinum level there. Listen, all of these are great, right? If you're thinking about sponsoring SaaStr Europa, they're all really great because no matter what you choose at all SaaStr events, Europa and annual, you're always front and center. And some of these do have like customer VIP invites, that kind of stuff. And we put an average lead scan here just to give you a sense of like how many to expect if you're thinking of sponsoring, or if you're already sponsored. But this is an average, right? I know folks who have gotten above or below these bands, so it's really dependent. So yeah, I would say if you're thinking of going big and doing more of an activation, get the last platinum. If you want that speaking component, you have a little extra budget, you could do the Super Gold to get that speaking component. If you're coming in and you want something that's, honestly fairly, very, very turnkey, the gold's a great option. The only things you'd have to really turn in are like the booth graphics. You'd have to think about what you want on the TV that's in your booth, but everything else you can kind of do, beforehand. Even though there's 3 months, you would still have a lot of time there to plan out how to make the most of it. So I do think that's a really great option to consider. We did have some additional sponsor opportunities, but that have now been sold and spoken for. Yeah, our pub sponsorship, our water bottles, and our lanyards are all branded. These, I'm not surprised, went first because these are all high visibility items. Obviously, the lanyards, everyone wears them. They're in every photo. Water bottles, again, same thing. Everyone kind of uses these around town those days. And yeah, the pub. So the pub's going to be a really good time. And so I'm not surprised, and like more of a lounge. So I'm not surprised that went first as well. Additional sponsor opportunities. If you're thinking, okay, maybe I can, do the booth, or this is the year I'm going to take the leap on sponsoring the SaaStr Europa event. I'll just kind of quickly wrap on a few other activations. The big party is near and dear to my heart because we've always done it at SaaStr Annual, and I've been able to help pick the musical act. And this will be the first time that we do it at SaaStr Europa. So that's super exciting. It's again, we thought for London it'd be nice to have the first big party there and bring it to our Europe event. This is the venue. It's actually connected to Tobacco Docks. It's gorgeous, guys. I've been here both in the summer and in the wintertime when they had, so on the bottom you can see they kind of have like a croquet lawn in the summertime. They'll have that when we're there. We'll have a stage or whatever for whatever band or DJ ends up being our big party entertainment. But yeah, no, it's so fun and cool. And it's outdoors, it's central. We're gonna start a little early so you get like that day to night switch. It's fun. And yeah, I've been up here when it's both a croquet set or an ice rink, and it's just cool to go up there, and like they've got these cool built-in bars kind of all over the place, lots tons of seating and screens. So yeah, the big party is going to be a ton of fun if you want to, and it's the main activity day one, so it's literally right immediately after day one content and happy hour wrap, so you go right into the big party. It's on site. We're just gonna tell folks how to get there because it's attached to the venue. It's it's on the roof. So there's some stairs involved, but we'll just tell folks how to get there and have a good time to kick off the first day of Europa and really the first one in London. Okay, few ones I'll wrap on. Maybe I'll just pick two of these. So the green room I really like. If you're like, hey, I really want to get in front of some of the top tier folks at SaaStr Europa, the green room is a great way to do that because that is our green room for speakers and VIPs. And so we showed a photo here from the folks at Calendly who did it at the annual event. This is what they did with their branding. They did a super cool like backpack wall at our SaaStr annual event. And it was really fun. And they had like a little 5-station there so they could chat with folks, as they were usually coming off stage. Usually people sometimes are a little nervous beforehand. But I will say too, the magic of SaaStr events, it's like our speakers kind of either know each other or get to know each other. And so a lot of them, if they can, will kind of actually hang out there or hold court, as I like to say. So you will kind of get to know some of the speakers and VIPs there. So that's always a fun one, I think, because you can get in front of a very specific targeted audience. The last one I'll chat about is like our founders dinner that we do. So we've gone to doing these every year and every event now where we do a founders dinner, again, kind of a same-ish sort of audience to the green room. But this is a great way to get in front of these folks the day and night before SaaStr Europa kicks off. We do like a VIP dinner for probably 50 or so folks. And yeah, we bring them all together. It's a, show sponsorship, you get some branding, you get to go send folks, you can invite a couple customers, and like people have really liked this one because again, you get that VIP feeling. And the event hasn't started yet, so like no one's stressed, everyone's pretty chill, just there to have a good time. And sort of it's like the first kind of kickoff to the event. So let me see if there are any questions in the chat. Okay. Oh, great questions, actually. Okay, so cool. Thanks. If you guys have any other questions, please drop them into the Q&A. If not, you can also email me. I will throw back up slide if I can. Might have lost it, but you can just email me. I am ai@saastrinc.com. Alonzo from CapChase has a great question. How do we get in contact for... Oh, some really good questions coming in. Okay, so Alonso's from CapChase's question is, how do we get in contact to bringing our CEOs or an execs for speaking in SaaStr Europa? Great question. So the fastest way I would say is on our website, so SaaStr.com, there is a big speaker submissions page. If you fill that out with some of the topics you're thinking of, your exact speakers, and fill that out fully, that goes directly to myself, Jason, the dedicated SaaStr speaker team. I say that's faster because again, it goes direct to us and the speaker team versus like you going to, Poya or David and then having them forward it on. like if you go through that directly, I know it's a form, but we actually do see it. We get a Slack on it anytime somebody submits. So if you submit there, we can see it right away. I will say we're actively reviewing these and trying to figure out how to do the final slots. So the sooner you could submit, the better. And that's for anyone listening. If you want to submit a speaking session for Europa or annual, highly recommend you do that now. Some things to keep in mind for your guys' speaker submissions. And again, it's just SaaStr.com to submit. Keep in mind, we do have inclusion and speaker guidelines to be mindful of. We have a strict no manels policy, which is like a no, I know it's not a real word, it's a no all male panel policy. So we try and be as inclusive as possible. And we also like to do a diversity of topics. So not only from the speakers, but also from the topics themselves. If I could suggest some topics, some of the things we always do or kind of work with better that kind of helps bring a speaker session to life. Anything that's like 5 ways to XYZ on a topic, anything that's more of a workshop, so like a tactical guide to, selling, whatever it may be, helps when you're a sponsor, it helps if it's completely unrelated to your product. Let me tell you, that really helps when it's completely unrelated. Like if there's no question mark or sniffs of whether or not it could be a commercial or just a product pitch, which we don't do. It really helps when it is, again, completely unrelatable to your product. That is super helpful. So, things like hiring, recruiting, marketing, sales, any of those great topics. Sales and marketing are our top topics always, but we do also thought things for like product, customer success, engineering, recruiting, scaling, things you learned on the way to, whatever your stage is, 100 million, 10 million, what I did wrong at 10 million and how I got to 100. Topics like these are always like kind of classic, more SaaStr topics. And I would say too, for folks, like, where all possible, I know a lot of folks like to be solo presenters, but we have also seen folks do things like bring a colleague or a peer to come do a session with them. Because again, that gives you double the brand power. And it's not just about, getting your session accepted by myself and the speaker team. It's also, no session is ever guaranteed. Like we throw session reg open and we go from there. We're very data driven. We see how people are either attending and signing up for it or not attending. So super long-winded answer. The answer is really to go to SaaStr.com, go to the speaker submissions page and submit. But hopefully those are some good tips to help your submission since we are getting close to being full for Europa. There's another great question here from Maria. Do you have recommendations for booth activations? Absolutely. I have a whole list. I will send you the formal list. Let me pull back up my slides because some of the things that are activations can be in booth, and then there's some that can be kind of just in venue. So let me pull this back up actually. I lost it on my Google share. Okay. Practice has the rest of them. But yes, I'll make sure you get the full list. Let me just pull this up very quickly. So let me share my screen actually on these slides because it'll give you some sense of a few other things you can do. Either in or around your booth. So the water bottles are taken. I liked that one as a activation because it's both a swag item plus there's a hydration station that went like by your booth. That one's been sold. I would say other things that can be sort of an activation, again, by your booth. That are more, and these are more turnkey. I have a whole list I can also send you of things that are through ourselves and some of our partners at the venue that are more like food activation related. But some of the ones that are like we would help with or like coffee and tea are a good one. This would be like venue-wide coffee and tea, but also at your booth. So when people want coffee, they go to your booth. That's a really good one. Wi-Fi, obviously, that's kind of event-wide. Same thing with breakfast here. If you wanted to do like a breakfast or a tea, it would be, kind of venue-wide, but also at your booth, so people go there. Registration's a good one because, and I know that one seems like a stretch for a booth sponsorship. However, I'll say this: the last 2 registration sponsors we did an activation where folks would get something at registration as they check in, and then they would have to take it to your booth. So I'll give you the recent example from Disaster APAC. Lark did like a golden ticket that they gave to everyone who registered. And then the attendees would take the golden ticket to their booth, play it in the vending machine, and then they would get like a different piece of swag item. So it does end up being actually a booth activation and a way to draw people there. They brought their vending machine. Another example, and that's kind of twofold, right? Because you're kind of getting people there and you're doing a booth activation. Another one that I've seen people do is at SaaStr Annual, Paddle and Profitwell did like a game token, and then they had an arcade in their booth, which again, they worked with us to bring in. And so then everyone who registered, literally everyone who registered, well, actually most people who registered, I mean, they had the most leads of anyone. Most people who registered like went with this game token to their booth to play the arcade game. So that one's a fun way to do it as like a booth activation as well. Let me just quickly browse these other ones that are booth activations. These are more traditional activations. And the green room is kind of, even though I already touched on it, it's kind of an activation because you can pick the booth that's literally right by the green room, or things like the co-working space or brain dates, again, to drive traffic to your booth. And then we do have some more traditional kind of like ancillary booth activations that are like food and beverage related. So I'll make sure we send that out to you. And anyone else who wants it, they'll probably just send it to everyone who's attending. But cool. I think those are the questions we got. So thanks for the really good questions. If you have any other ones, please do not hesitate to email me or Poya or David or Kevin. I'm just ai@saastering.com. I'm happy to get you to the right place and hopefully we can help. And without further ado, thanks for listening. Hopefully this was helpful to, again, a lot of you are already sponsoring. Hopefully this helped jumpstart a few brainstorm ideas for SaaStr Europa. Also a good reminder that it's coming up quickly. So to start thinking about your activations and your teams and who you're going to send there. But yeah, if we can help in any way, let us know. Thanks so much for listening, and we will see you again next Thursday. Goodbye for now.